Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to take complex, high-value information and, well, break it down into wisdom you can use right away.
Yep, giving you that critical shortcut. We cut through the noise so you can get informed fast.
And today, we've got a really fascinating stack of sources. It's all built around 58 essays that have been collected into a book called Leading the Way.
And this is not just theory. I mean, it really reads like a field guide for modern leadership.
The author we're diving into is Jeffrey A. Brown. We're really excited to spotlight his work. He's a seasoned fractional CTO, an executive coach, a strategic advisor out of the Colorado Springs area.
And he's got some serious experience. We're talking over 30 years, really focused on helping organizations, from startups all the way to big enterprises.
To do what, exactly?
To align their tech strategy with actual measurable business goals. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly hard to do right.
And what makes his approach so effective? His superpower, as you called it, is what he terms sophisticated simplicity.
I love that phrase. He's a mentor, a speaker, he's on boards, he's a published author, but at his core, he's a true thought engineer.
A thought engineer. What does that mean in practice?
He takes these chaotic, jargon-filled topics, leadership, tech, innovation, and just presents them with this profound clarity. It's almost effortless. And that in itself is a form of leadership.
And the material itself has a pretty unique origin story, which I think speaks to its relevance.
It really does.
This book, it's a polished collection of his own LinkedIn posts, 58 of them, which he released over an 18-month period.
Yeah, he was publishing 2 insights every week. Pretty incredible consistency. That was between early 2024 and mid-2025.
And these weren't just, tossed out into the ether. They reached and resonated with over 55,000 professionals.
Right, people who are actively looking for practical clarity on how to innovate, how to lead, how to actually run an organization that doesn't just survive but thrives. This is road-tested wisdom.
Yeah, not something written in an ivory tower. And you mentioned his clarity, that's intentional. He calls his style cognitive writing. And the whole idea is to structurally align the message with how the human brain actually processes information.
Simple language for complex ideas. It's exactly the kind of efficiency a busy leader needs.
So our mission today is to move through the 6 sections of his book. We're going to guide you from the foundational principles of human-centered leadership all the way up to some really advanced strategies, things like omni-domain thinking and fractional leadership.
It's going to be a great journey. Let's dig in.
Okay, so let's start with those foundational ideas. Because Brown kicks things off by arguing that our modern concept of a leader, it needs a serious overhaul.
A total overhaul. He says we have to embrace what he calls redefining leadership.
Which means the leader isn't above the team.
Right. The leader is one with the team. It's a direct challenge to that hierarchical org chart we all know.
That chart can be such a psychological wall, can't it? It just isolates leaders at the top.
It absolutely does. And Brown's philosophy is, look, hierarchy exists for governance, for structure, fine, but the organization has to operate with a flat spirit. It has to recognize the value of every single person.
He has a really powerful analogy for this point. He compares a successful organization to a high-tech engine.
Oh, this is a great one. You can look at the smallest, most, seemingly mundane component. A tiny sensor, a little gasket,
and you just dismiss it. It seems insignificant.
Exactly. But if you pull that one tiny piece out, the whole system it seizes up, it fails.
That's a great visual. I mean, think about a role that's often overlooked, like data entry or someone maintaining the internal wiki.
A perfect example. If that person messes up, if they misclassify a critical client record or fail to update a safety standard,
the whole downstream process just collapses.
It all falls apart.
Yeah.
Sales, engineering, compliance, everything. Success is truly impossible without every single person's contribution. A leader has to get that in their bones. Every role is high stakes.
So how does a leader show this? I mean, beyond just saying the words, everyone is important.
He's all about intentional physical actions. He makes a point, for example, of sitting among the team in meetings, not at the head of the table.
That's such a simple but powerful gesture.
It is. It breaks down that perception of distance. It reinforces the idea that leadership is a function, not a position. It's collaborative. No role is insignificant.
It turns leadership into a two-way street. It's about being humble, clearing roadblocks,
and providing clarity. He suggests one of the most powerful questions a leader can ask over and over is simply, what can I do to support you?
That question changes everything.
It's transformative. It shifts the power dynamic. It's a clear demonstration of commitment. It empowers the team, and it opens up this channel for them to tell you what they actually need.
It teaches the team that leadership is about balance.
Exactly. You have to give as much as you get. Give support and resources just as much as you demand effort and results.
Okay, moving on. He frames authenticity, trust, and being human as the core currency of leadership.
The psychological currency, yeah. He calls authenticity a superpower.
But where does it actually come from? He talks about self-acceptance, but what's the first step?
It starts with some really intense and frankly difficult self-reflection. It's about developing self-awareness, knowing your own biases, your weaknesses, your strengths, and only then can you get to self-acceptance.
And when a leader accepts their own flaws,
Then they can foster real empathy. Then they have emotional intelligence. They start trying to project this impossible, perfect image.
this hits directly on what he calls the rookie mistake.
Ah, yes.
So many new leaders, they mistakenly believe that respect comes from knowing everything, projecting flawless competence.
They're terrified that any sign of weakness will just, erode their authority.
But that fear is so counterproductive.
Totally. Brown argues respect comes from connection. And you can't connect with a machine. You connect with a human. When you admit mistakes, when you ask for input, when you share your own uncertainty, you create psychological safety.
You're signaling to the team that it's okay for them to take risks.
It's okay to fail. Saying, I don't know, but let's figure it out together isn't weakness. It's an invitation. It invites the whole team to learn, and it cultivates curiosity.
That vulnerability, that transparency, it leads directly into his next point about intentionality, meaning that every single action, or, as he points out, sometimes strategic inaction, has to be mindful. It has to be deliberate.
Intentional leadership is all about aligning every decision with your core values, the team's goals, and the company's mission. You have to be crystal clear on your why.
Let's talk more about that strategic inaction. That's a fascinating concept. When is waiting better than just jumping in?
That is such a critical point. In a crisis, our instinct is to react immediately.
Right, do something.
But Brown suggests that sometimes speed just introduces more risk. Strategic inaction is about knowing the difference between an emergency and a mere urgency.
Give an example of that.
Sure. Let's say a competitor launches a new feature. The knee-jerk reaction is to scramble, to rush out a matching feature of your own.
Of course. Keep up with the Joneses.
But intentional inaction might mean taking a week to really analyze their move, talk to your sales team, talk to your customers, and make sure your response is strategic, not just a fear-based reaction that leads to burnout and a pile of technical debt.
So in that case, inaction protects your long-term strategy.
Exactly. It protects the mission.
Which brings us to the servant leader mindset. This is all about leading without ego, and it requires some radical honesty.
It really does.
How does a leader hold people accountable and maintain authority if they've checked their ego at the door?
It demands total self-awareness and self-acceptance. It's about shifting your focus completely away from your own personal success. The servant leader measures their success only by the success of their team.
That's not just altruism, is it?
Not at all. It's pragmatic. When the ego is out of the picture, decision-making becomes cleaner. It becomes laser-focused on what's best for the team and the organization.
I found his fresh perspective on this really interesting. The idea of applying these principles way earlier in life.
Yeah, embedding them in elementary school education.
Right. Infusing empathy, collaboration into the classroom.
It's a long-term investment in the future workforce. He sees elementary school teachers as these daily role models for servant leadership.
They're already doing it, in a way.
They are, but he suggests making it explicit, showing kids how to prioritize empathy, how to collaborate, how to value another student's idea. You'd cultivate a generation that enters the workforce already primed for these high-trust environments.
They wouldn't have to unlearn all the bad habits.
Exactly. They wouldn't have to unlearn that competitive me-first mindset that often gets taught implicitly.
So, last of the foundational principles. The shift from transactions to trust and partnerships. We see this breakdown all the time in sales, right? The obsession with the monthly quota.
He's very critical of that approach, that quota-focused transactional mindset. It completely ignores the one currency that really matters in a relationship.
Trust.
Trust. Customers aren't just buying a product. They're investing in your promise, your integrity. When you focus only on the transaction, you might get a short-term win, but you're killing the long-term health of the partnership.
And he specifically calls out the practice of rotating sales reps all the time. Why is that so damaging?
Because every time a company rotates a sales rep, they're essentially resetting the trust meter to zero.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
You're sacrificing all that institutional memory. It signals to the client that the company doesn't actually value continuity or a long-term relationship. Real partnerships are built over years. The moment that rep leaves, all that trust and knowledge walks right out the door with them.
So what's the practical fix?
It starts internally. It starts with collaboration. Leaders need to be asking their sales teams, what do you need to be successful in your role?
So it's an internal trust-building exercise first.
Absolutely. It shifts the focus from, did you hit your number, to, how can we as a company help you build lasting partnerships? When that internal relationship is strong, the external one has a chance to thrive.
That collaborative mindset flows perfectly into the second section, building your team. And Brown starts with a pretty sharp critique of modern recruiting.
He does. In his piece on human-centered hiring, he really goes after our over-reliance on technology.
Specifically the ATS, the automated systems.
And applicant tracking systems, yeah. They're efficient, sure, but he says they're way too focused on hard skills, keywords, the right school.
They're designed to screen people out, not screen them in.
That's the perfect way to phrase it. They excel at finding reasons to say no.
So what are the critical things the ATS misses?
It misses everything that makes a team great. It screens out people with different backgrounds, fresh ideas, people with huge potential just because their resume doesn't fit the template. It misses cultural fit, motivation, resilience, curiosity.
All the important stuff.
All the stuff that actually predicts success.
So his solution is to bring the human back into it with these connection calls. How does a leader use, say, 45 or 60 minutes to get insights? An algorithm just can't.
You have to structure it intentionally to get at their character and their thought process. He suggests starting easy, tell me about yourself outside of work, build some rapport, see the human being.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then check for alignment. Ask them to describe the position in their own words. That tells you immediately if their perception matches reality.
And then comes the resilience test.
Right. The famous impossible question.
How does that actually work? What's the goal?
The goal isn't the answer. It's watching the attempt. You might ask something completely wild like, describe your process for designing a self-sustaining city on Mars using only materials from a hardware store.
That is definitely impossible.
It is, but you're gauging how they handle it. Do they freeze up? Do they just start listing random tools? Or do they start by defining constraints, asking clarifying questions, demonstrating critical thinking on the fly? You get to see their real-time problem-solving brain at work.
And the final piece is the ego test.
This is a great one. You have to introduce a question that's designed to get them to say, I don't know.
Because the last thing you want is a know-it-all.
Especially in a senior role, absolutely. Brown looks for the candidate who says, I don't have the answer to that, but here's how I would find it. Or, that's outside my expertise, but here's my educated guess. That humility is just vital for a learning culture.
Okay, so shifting gears to developing the team. He has a lot of practical management basics. I like that he still values a degree.
Yeah, but not for the reason you might think.
Not for the specific content learned.
Exactly. He values it because it proves you can commit to and finish a long-term goal. It's a signal of reliability.
That's the point.
Beyond that, his tips are just solid, practical advice. Write your own job description so they're accurate. Use internships as basically extended interviews.
And he has that sweet spot for experience level.
Right, 3 to 7 years. They've proven themselves, but they're still adaptable. But for senior roles, he's very clear. And these have to accept that a 6 to 8 month search is just the reality of finding the right fit.
But the real strategic minefield he talks about here is promoting your star individual contributors into leadership.
Oh, it's the classic mistake. The most common and often the most damaging thing an organization can do.
So you have a brilliant engineer, a top salesperson,
Yeah.
someone who excels at doing the work.
They thrive on it. They're hands-on experts. They love solving the problems themselves.
But the leadership role requires this huge psychological pivot. You have to go from doing to enabling others to do.
And that pivot is brutal. and it just disrupts everything. First, you create a huge vacuum of expertise on the front lines. Second, you often get a frustrated, micromanaging new leader.
Because they were promoted for having all the answers.
Right. And now their job is to let the team find the answers, which is torture for a former top performer. So they jump in, they fix things, and in the process, they undermine their team's confidence and sense of ownership.
So what's the alternative? How do you recognize those star players?
Brown is really clear on this. Promote them within their specialty. Create a technical, track senior principal, staff engineer, expert level, whatever.
And pay them accordingly.
And pay them really, really well. A highly skilled individual contributor is often way harder to replace and holds more unique knowledge than a middle manager. Their compensation should reflect that value.
That connects perfectly to his idea of empowerment through letting go.
Yeah.
He uses the org chart as a skyscraper metaphor.
I love this metaphor. As a leader, you move up the floors from manager to director to VP.
And as you go up, your view gets better.
Yeah.
You could see the whole city, the competitive landscape.
You get that amazing strategic perspective. But here's the catch.
The higher you go, the less direct control you have over what's happening on the ground floor.
Exactly. You have to surrender direct control. Real leadership is using that high-level view not to micromanage, but to provide support, to offer strategic guidance, to make sure resources are flowing to the right places.
Your ultimate goal is to make the team self-sufficient.
So self-sufficient that your constant oversight becomes irrelevant. The view is for strategy, not for checking people's work.
Okay, let's talk about the mentorship advantage. Beyond just giving advice, how does a mentor actually accelerate someone's learning curve?
A good mentor is like a personalized filter and an accelerator. They share relevant experiences, which immediately challenges the mentee's assumptions. They help manage expectations about setbacks.
So you're not as shocked when things go wrong.
Right. And when failure does happen, the mentor provides a fresh perspective. They reframe it as a shared lesson, a data point, not a personal catastrophe. That normalization of failure is what fuels rapid growth.
And now, with so much remote mentoring, the mentor needs a different skill set.
A highly specialized one. They need incredibly sharp active listening skills.
Because you lose all the body language on a video call.
All of it. So the mentor has to listen for the subtle shifts in tone, the unexpected pauses, the ways someone avoids a direct question. You have to sense the frustration or disengagement through their voice.
But the upside is huge.
Oh, massive. Remote work removes geography as a barrier. Mentorship becomes a global experience, which means you have this incredible diversity and potential mentor-mentee pairings.
Finally, in this section, his simple recipe for leading the engineering mind. Engineers are driven by curiosity, he says, but they need structure.
They need purpose, clarity, and trust. The 5 things he lists are all linked. Lead by example, you have to walk the walk. Clarity, that means a well-defined, stable scope. Engineers hate chasing moving targets.
And efficiency is huge for them. Every investment of time has to lead to something real.
A tangible outcome. And he's specific about this.
He says functional, released software, not just code complete.
Yes. Because code complete just means you finished typing. Functional release software means it works, it solves a real problem, and it delivers value to a user. Engineers should be judged on value creation, not task completion.
And the last 2 are trust and.
Trust letting their expertise lead the way. And trust but verify using clear, agreed-upon metrics to ensure accountability without micromanaging. It's about autonomy with guardrails.
All right, let's move into the heart of it all. Communication, influence, and culture. Section 3 starts with leading through mindful communication.
And his big idea here is transformation through questions.
Which is really about building self-sufficiency.
It is. If the leader is always the one with the answers, the team becomes intellectual dependent. They stop thinking for themselves.
So by asking open-ended questions, like, what data would help you make this decision? Or what's the outcome we're really trying to achieve here? You force the team to flex their own critical thinking muscles. You're teaching them to fish.
He has a fantastic, simple trick for avoiding what he calls the deadline trap. It's literally changing one word.
This is so good. Instead of asking, when can you have that report?
Which feels like a demand. It puts the person on the spot.
Exactly. It creates anxiety. Instead, you ask, when do you need it?
That simple change opens up a conversation.
Immediately. It becomes a discussion about expectations. It allows the team member to balance the quality you need with the time they actually have. It's respectful of their workload. It's just a mechanism for setting realistic expectations.
We also have to talk about the mirrored leadership effect. This is the idea that a team is a direct reflection of its leader.
It's deeply rooted in organizational psychology. Leaders set the emotional tone. Brown contrasts 4 types, and the results are, well, they're stark.
Okay, so a toxic leader, they use fear and criticism. And the team responds with burnout, low productivity, and they start fighting with each other, lateral aggression.
What about the absent leader? Not malicious, but just not there.
That leader breeds disengagement. The team just stagnates. They have no direction, no motivation because they don't feel seen.
So you have the servant leader.
Who fosters trust and creativity, high loyalty. But the ideal, he says, is the emotionally intelligent leader.
And they create what?
Genuine psychological safety. They embrace diverse ideas, and as a result, they get high tenure and low turnover because people feel valued, understood, and safe.
It's a sobering thought. If you see apathy or conflict in your team, the first place to look is in the mirror. This leads us to his signature idea, cognitive writing and thought leadership. We should explain this in more detail. It's more than just using simple language.
It is. Cognitive writing is about structuring communication for maximum mental efficiency. It's delivering complex ideas so they land effortlessly in the mind, like listening to a beautiful piece of music.
It's more about structure than vocabulary.
Exactly. It's about the techniques. You engage curiosity right away. Start with a provocative question. You break down complexity into manageable chunks.
Using clear headings, relatable analogies.
Right. Analogies that bridge the gap between some abstract concept and a real-world result. And critically, you have to build in natural pauses, even when you're speaking. Give the audience a second to process and reflect.
So thought leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room.
It's about being the clearest. It's a mindset, a lifelong pursuit of discovery. It's about challenging assumptions, asking hard questions. Your influence comes from clarity and powerful storytelling, not from shouting the loudest.
Okay, next up, the art of feedback and embracing failure. He starts by drawing a really important line between feedback and criticism.
A vital line. Feedback, he says, is selfless. It's a gift. Its only purpose is to help the other person grow.
Whereas criticism
is often self-serving. It's about venting your own frustration or proving you're smarter. If your motivation is tied to your own ego, it's criticism, not feedback.
He also pushes back against that gentle, generic praise, the great job trap. How does that limit growth?
It just encourages people to settle for good enough. It's a missed opportunity to push for real excellence. Instead, he suggests leaders adopt an engineering concept, the critical design review.
Explain how that works.
In a critical design review, the team focuses almost exclusively on potential failures.
So you're stress testing the idea.
Exactly. You ask, where's the weak point? What failure mode haven't we thought of? What happens if this gets 200% of the expected load? It's a constructive attack on the work, not the person. It builds resilience and spots flaws before they become disasters.
And that mindset allows for what he calls the strength in imperfection. Why is it so important for leaders to allow imperfect decisions?
Because perfection is often the enemy of progress. It's definitely the enemy of speed. Leaders have to create space for the team to make calculated, imperfect decisions. That freedom is what unlocks unexpected successes and real innovation. If every decision needs a dozen sign-offs to be perfect, you grind to a halt.
And the final word on failure itself.
It's not just an option, it's necessary. It's an integral part of the innovation process. He draws on people like Thomas Edison. Every mistake is just. It's data. It's a learning opportunity. It's a step on the path.
When leaders embrace that, they get a culture where smart risk-taking is encouraged.
Which leads to higher velocity and the ability to adapt.
Okay, Section 4 pivots to culture and environment, starting with inclusive leadership.
And for him, this goes way beyond just metrics and labels. It's about actively creating an environment where constructive debate isn't just allowed, it's expected. It's about truly valuing different strengths and perspectives.
Because that diversity is a catalyst for creativity.
A direct catalyst, not a compliance checkbox.
He has a really important segment here on navigating neurodiversity. He calls it the neurodivergent paradox. Let's go deep on this.
This is so critical for modern leaders. Neurodivergent minds, people with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, they often see the world through a kaleidoscope.
And the paradox is that they face real challenges: sensory overload, communication hurdles.
But they also unlock these extraordinary strengths. Incredible cognitive flexibility, the ability to hyper-focus, rapid pattern analysis, connecting seemingly unrelated ideas.
So what does a leader need to do practically to support them?
You have to become an advocate. You restructure the environment, not the person. That means things like clear written communication, avoiding sudden, unstructured meetings, maybe providing a quiet work zone.
So you focus on the output, not the process.
Exactly. Focus on the quality of their work, not on rigid adherence to a 9-to-5 schedule in a noisy open office. The leader who gets that the brain that struggles with a deadline might be the same brain that comes up with the game-changing solution. That's the leader who wins.
Next, the age-old problem of silo breakdown. Teams are doing great, but the organization as a whole is failing.
This is the high cost of unaligned success. Winning teams still lose when they succeed in a vacuum.
When each department is just focused on its own metrics.
Right. Sales hits their number, engineering ships features, marketing gets leads. Everyone looks great on paper, but their priorities are disconnected. They end up competing for resources and credit instead of cooperating. Success has to be measured by alignment across the whole system.
And to break down those silos, he says you have to start by enabling HR and IT.
They have to radically shift to a service mindset. View employees as internal customers. Its default response needs to change from no to how can we help you achieve that securely?
And HR has to focus on the humans and human resources.
Yes.
Building psychological safety, acting as an employee advocate, not just a policy enforcer. Because your people really are your most valuable asset.
And finally, a reminder to look beyond metrics.
KPIs, they're just quantitative.
Yeah.
They tell you the score of the game, but they don't tell you if the players are happy or hurt.
They don't tell you the why.
Exactly. Employees are driven by trust, purpose, fulfillment. Those are qualitative. A good leader has to balance the spreadsheets with frequent, meaningful conversations to find out what's really going on. We're now in the final, most strategic sections, starting with decision-making and execution. How do leaders get past that natural human fear when making big, high-stakes decisions?
Fear is an ancient survival instinct, right? It's useful in the wild, but in business it paralyzes you. Brown argues you have to balance that instinct with cold, hard data.
You use facts to bring clarity.
You do. Innovation always feels risky. But if you have enough aligned data that predicts a positive outcome, it stops being a blind risk and becomes a calculated, informed strategic move.
This connects to his engineer's critical thinking approach. What are the steps leaders can borrow from engineers?
First, define success. What does done look like? Second, and this is the most important part, clarify the real problem. Are you looking at the problem or just a symptom?
Give me an example of that.
Okay, high employee turnover. That's not the problem. That's a symptom.
The real problem might be inconsistent management, low pay, lack of purpose.
Exactly. You have to treat the root cause, not just the symptom. Then you choose an idea based on your actual constraints. You might want a brand new tire, but if all you have is a spare, you use the spare. You pick the best available solution, and then you test and iterate relentlessly.
To guide all this, leaders need effective metrics.
Yeah.
But we've all seen metric overload. He talks about a role that had 32 KPIs.
Which is just insane. It's overwhelming. If you have 32 priorities, you have 0 priorities.
So his framework is much simpler.
Just 3 to 5 critical areas, and they have to align directly with the company's biggest objectives.
And what about setting the targets for those metrics?
Be realistic but motivating. He suggests an 80% baseline for success. That's achievable. It removes the fear of failure. But then you have a stretch goal, maybe 120%, to reward great performance. And you have to communicate clearly why these metrics matter. The team needs to own them.
He also provides a recipe for major project guidance.
The big ones, yeah. And it requires discipline. First, define the destination. Focus on the what, the outcome, not the how. Then map clear milestones. Then maintain discipline.
Resisting scope creep.
The great project killer, you have to fight it. But you also have to embrace adaptability between the milestones. And maybe most importantly, you have to be willing to fail early.
Don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly. Cutting your losses on a doomed project is a sign of strength, not weakness. It preserves resources and, frankly, trust.
So now we enter Section 6, Advanced Leadership. The thinking gets really sophisticated here, starting with a concept he prefers over nonlinear thinking.
Right. He calls it omni-domain thinking, or ODT.
What does that mean?
It's the ability to think across all professional domains at once. You're not focused on the domain itself, but on the underlying attributes, the context, the patterns.
So you can find a solution from one field and apply it to a totally different one.
Precisely, even if it's never been used there before. He gives a great example.
Architecture and software development.
Yeah. Think about physical architecture. It's all about structure, load-bearing points, flow. An omni-domain thinker sees that those same concepts, load balancing, modularity, separating structure from aesthetics, applied directly to building software.
So you apply lessons from structural engineering to code.
And you create more robust, scalable systems. ODT turns you into a pattern detector across the entire universe of knowledge.
And what's the secret weapon you need to actually do this? It's not just about being smart.
No, it's emotional intelligence, EI. He says mastering EI is just as essential as your domain knowledge. It's knowing which tool to pull out of the emotional toolbox at the right moment.
EI is what lets you remove obstacles, see potential, resolve conflict.
And ultimately, it enhances the entire team's value by creating a space where all these different patterns of thought can come together safely.
Okay, now we hit on Brown's core expertise, fractional leadership for innovation. He calls it a silent revolution. Why is it so transformative for smaller companies?
Because it democratizes expertise. For decades, only the Fortune 100s could afford a seasoned strategic CTO or CMO. Those salaries are massive.
But fractional leadership changes the model.
Completely. It lets a startup or a scale-up get access to that same caliber of strategic mind for, say, a few days a month. You get the C-suite brain power at a fraction of the cost.
And it's important to distinguish this from consulting.
Fundamentally different. A consultant gives you a report and leaves. A fractional executive takes the title, assumes the responsibility, and fully invests in your success. They are in the trenches with you, building your team, driving the change.
And as a fractional CTO, Brown has 3 guiding principles.
The first is that clarity transforms everything. This is all about aligning the tech roadmap directly to business outcomes. You're not just completing tasks, you're creating value. The second is that trust accelerates innovation.
Empowerment leads to ownership.
Yes, when the team feels trusted, they perform at a higher level and take more accountability. They have skin in the game.
And the third principle is about the future.
Future-ready technology scales with growth. This means making smart architectural decisions early on, cloud-native, automated testing, CI/CD pipelines. You do the hard work up front so that technical debt doesn't choke you when you start to scale.
Our final major topic is a big one: AI, bias, and contextual memory. Brown's take on AI bias is pretty direct.
Very direct. His stance is that AI isn't inherently biased. It's a mirror. It's just reflecting the biased data we feed it.
So the problem is us. Our unconscious biases are being encoded into the models.
Which highlights the role of human leaders. We have the advantage of awareness. We have to actively manage our own biases before we bake them into the machines.
He makes a really crucial philosophical distinction here between truth versus fact.
This is so important for understanding AI. A fact is objective reality. It's verifiable. A truth, on the other hand, is a belief that's accepted as true within a certain group. It's subjective.
And the AI source of truth is our data.
The training data. So if that data is full of our subjective cultural truths or biases, the AI will spit out biased, flawed conclusions, even if the model itself is technically perfect. We're poisoning the well.
So the next leap forward for AI isn't just about bigger data sets.
No, it's about refining contextual memory.
What does that mean?
Well, current models use a token-based memory. It's sequential, it's pretty shallow. Brown suggests moving to an attribute framework. It's more like how human memory works. We don't remember every word of a conversation. We remember key attributes, concepts, the emotional context.
And applying that to AI would improve its comprehension.
Dramatically. It would lead to AI that can generate more meaningful, tailored, and far less biased responses. That's how we unlock its true, sophisticated potential.
Wow. What an incredible journey through Jeffrey A. Brown's 6 layers of leadership wisdom. We went from those foundational principles of authenticity and ego-free leadership,
All about the power of trust.
through strategic team building and mindful communication, and then all the way up to these advanced concepts like omni-domain thinking.
And the democratization of expertise through fractional leadership.
The one big lesson for me, the thread that runs through everything, is the immense value of that sophisticated simplicity.
Effective leadership isn't about being more complex or having more control. It's about absolute clarity. It's about intentionality. And it's about driving success through wisdom that's been proven in the real world.
And as we close out, we want to leave you with a provocative thought, something directly from the source material. Brown notes that real critical thinking starts with curiosity. It starts with asking, what if I'm wrong?
And he says that habits only stick if they are rooted in purpose.
So if you're striving for that sophisticated simplicity in your own professional life, if you're trying to cut through the complexity, here's the challenge.
What complex process or maybe what long-standing habit that you do on autopilot? What is that thing in your workflow that you're going to approach this week by intentionally asking?
What if I stopped doing this entirely?
Yeah, that's a scary question.
It is. But sometimes the greatest efficiency isn't optimizing a task. It's eliminating it altogether. That is your challenge for this week.
Thank you for diving deep with us.
We'll see you next time.